Now, let's talk about Partygate. Front page of today's Times. Apparently, the report from Sue Gray was watered down. Front page of The Observer today, saying that Boris Johnson is ruining the Tory identity. Apparently, many more MPs are about to go on to the record saying that they want rid of Boris Johnson. But is it time that we drew a line under Partygate? Well, Lettice Bromovsky is a political commentator with Young Voices UK and joins me now. Is it time we draw a line, morning to you, under Partygate?
Morning, Cristo. I mean, the short answer from me is yes. I ultimately don't think anymore that us continuing to talk about this and perpetuate this is helping our country at a time when we really need stability. I mean, in short, what you were saying earlier about this, more MPs are going to be putting in their letters of no confidence. This is something that we've heard before. This is something that's been going on for months, is that we're going to reach this golden number of 54. We now know of 24 that have actually been handed in, 9 since the Sue Gray report. But it's not exactly a watershed. And a bit like a few months ago when we had the pork pie plot, and then we had the pork pie plot, which was the Red Wall Tory MPs uniting together, but then we had a sort of separate bunch of long-standing Tory MPs, such as David Davis, standing up in the House of Commons. There's no unity in this sort of rebellion,
but just
and I sort of feel that again. But
just because Conservative MPs are completely and utterly spineless and don't want to go onto the record, that's no reason why we, the public, should just shrug our shoulders and say, well, that's that, let's forget all about it and move on.
I completely agree with that, and I think in no way that we should forget about it and move on. What happened during lockdown in government is outrageous, and people have a right to be angry, and frankly, they should be angry, but I think there should be some sort of proportionality to this.
Well, then what should happen then? Because Boris Johnson has said he's taken responsibility. He hasn't. He said that he didn't know anything about it. He lied. Surely we deserve better than a Prime Minister who does all of that, waters down the report, and then essentially just gets away with it.
I mean, if we look at it from a side that say he resigns tomorrow, you know, he changes his tune entirely and he resigns.
Well, he won't do that because that's the honourable thing to do, but he will never do that.
I agree. That is completely out of style and it's something he would never do. But that would throw our country, our government, into a leadership contest. You know, I speak to my friends, my family, my colleagues. Everyone has a different opinion of who should be the next leader of this country, whether it's Rishi Sunak to Liz Truss, you know, the more classic choices, or the One Nation Tories like Penny Mordaunt or Tom Tugendhat. People all have a different opinion. And I think this is also represented within the Conservative Party.
That's great. Let's get a debate going then. That's exactly what we need, is rather than a bumbling fool who has no ideology whatsoever other than just lying to the person in front of his face, which is what Boris Johnson's ideology is. Let's get a debate going about what the direction of the Conservative Party should be, whether they should return to Conservative values. That's exactly what the Conservative Party needs.
See, this is where I disagree with you. Having a Conservative Party who are just infighting amongst themselves at a time when we have really serious issues like the cost of living crisis going on. That's one of the main concerns for me at the moment. We've got our energy bill cap at £2,800. That's more than £200 a month. That is an entirely unsustainable sum of money. But not only our domestic issues.
And you think Boris Johnson's the man to sort that out? I mean, if you mention Ukraine and all of that, I mean, to be honest, yes, that's been the one shining moment in Boris Johnson's being Prime Minister, where he showed a window of competency which people seem to hold on to like a lifeboat. But if you genuinely think that Boris Johnson's solution to the cost of living crisis is to hand out free money and that that's going to solve inflation, that goes to show even more of a reason why the Conservative Party have completely lost their direction.
I think this is a time when we need these support packages. We've gone through so much, and I agree, the Tories right now are not living by their usual promises and their usual standing. But this is the state that we're in because of COVID, because of the debt. This is where we are right now. We can't change that.
So
we can't go back as much as we want to.
The Conservative Party is taking lessons and policy from the Labour Party, and you don't think that that is causing a crisis within the Conservative Party and among Conservative voters? Because if they don't have this argument now, they're going to have it closer to the election, or they're going to lose the election. Now, if I were a Tory voter now, which traditionally I would be, I would way rather get all that out of the way now than have it fought over in the election.
Well, yeah, that is something. The election is being thought of a lot at the moment. But I think that if they can truly help people through this cost of living crisis, I think people will forget about Partygate. I really do. And when the Sue Gray report came out, you know, the Daily Mirror, in the run-up to it, was having an absolute field day of these new revelations and these new bombshells that would be revealed. And frankly, nothing new was revealed. Nothing that we didn't already know was revealed.
Well, I think what we already knew was bad enough. And unfortunately, every single cowardly, spineless Conservative MP that went onto the television to defend Boris Johnson and Boris Johnson himself all said continually when they were questioned about it, we can't talk about the Sue Gray, we can't talk about Partygate till the Sue Gray report comes out. We can't talk about Partygate till the Sue Gray report comes out. The Sue Gray report comes out, well, we say, right, now we can talk about what it actually contained and all of these revelations. Oh, well, it's time to draw a line under it because it was so long ago. None of them have taken responsibility. None of them have taken any accountability. And what it means is that the person who is there as the gatekeeper, as the steward of our country's laws, have basically got away with breaking them.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to responsibility, what sort of level of responsibility do you want them to take other than resigning? And I mean, that would also fall under Keir Starmer having to resign as well.
Quite right too. Quite right too. Let's have a root and branch clearer.
This would leave us with a country.
One of the reasons that we are in this mess, and there is enough blame to go around. And one of the reasons we have such an incompetent buffoon as a Prime Minister is because the Labour Party have been a shambles for so many years, and because Keir Starmer is not a competent and not a charismatic opposition leader, which means precisely why, when you have bad opposition, you get bad government. Look at the Conservative Party of the early noughties, where they were in a shambles. We ended up with a Labour Party that took us into Iraq. We ended up with a Labour Party that allowed an amount of immigration which the country didn't want from the EU. Bad opposition leads to bad government. Let's sort it both out.
Yes, completely. But I don't think that if we're thinking in the bigger picture of our voters, of the people that need your support right now, having two of our main political parties without leaders is in any way the right step to be taking.
Well, no, with new leaders.
You will, with new leaders, but first you've got to have leadership elections.
Great.
We've gone for months.
Let's get on with it now. We're 2 years out from an election. That'll give us great amount of time to hear new ideas from both of these new leaders. We might end up with an opposition that's competent enough to hold the government to account, because we haven't had one of those. And we might end up with a Prime Minister that actually has an ideology that gives this country a direction. That's fine by me.
I mean, that may be the case, but I believe for our people, for our voters, for Ukraine to have some stability going forward, we've been the #1 supporter of them, something we can all be very proud of. We've given them around 1.3 billion in aid and machinery so far. For us to then be sort of infighting between ourselves and for them to lose that support and stability, that's just not the position that I think we should be willing to put ourselves in as a country.
Lettice Bromovsky, political commentator with Young Voices UK. Thank you for that. David Bull is here. Morning to you.
Good morning. It's David.
David?
Yeah, David.
No ear.
No ear. No ear.
There was a very compelling argument put forward by Lettice there about the Conservative Party and why Boris Johnson shouldn't resign.